Welcome to NEC Football Digest. I'm Ralph Ventre, and I'm glad to be back with you for another year of the NEC on the gridiron. Kickoff 2013 is upon us. 6 of the 7 Northeast Conference teams will kick off their seasons in Week 1, and we're here to tell you all about what to expect. The new year brings with it a slight change to our format here on NEC Football Digest. Yes, we'll still take you around the NEC on a weekly basis, going in-depth in each matchup on the docket that week. We'll do it just a little differently, though. We're going to bring you 3 keys to every game. Those are the 3 important things that we think you should focus on during the matchup. So let's start with our first game of 2013, Robert Morris at Eastern Kentucky under some Thursday night lights. Robert Morris's first matchup of the 2013 season is one against a nationally ranked opponent. The Colonials visit number 19 Eastern Kentucky on Thursday night. The 3 keys to the game as we see it, well, first, RMU will go into battle with a new field general. All-NEC quarterback Jeff Sinclair has graduated, and Penn State transfer Paul Jones has stepped in to win the starting job. Head coach Joe Walton, he describes his new signal caller with words such as savvy, level-headed, and of course, he has a strong arm. So it'll be interesting to see Paul Jones make his RMU debut at EKU. Robert Morris should have an edge in experience over a number of teams it goes up against this season. Coach Walton admits that this team, across the board, is one of the most experienced units he's had in a while. Offensive tackle A.J. Dalton has plenty of battle-tested experience, as does fifth-year senior linebacker Kyle Cooper. One thing about these experienced veterans, though, they have a bit of a sour taste in their mouth from the last couple of years.
From August 1st on, we strive for an NEC Championship, and if we don't get that, we view it as a failure. Coming off 2 down years, in my opinion, and everyone on the team's opinion, we want better things, and we're looking forward to better things.
Key number 3, a long way from Waynesburg. This opening day matchup is a milestone of sorts for Robert Morris, as it shows where the program is today and how far it has come. In 1994, the Colonials played their first ever varsity game against Waynesburg, a win for Joe Walton and company. Now, fast forward to 2013, the Colonials have 6 NEC titles as Joe Walton is ready for his 20th and final season patrolling the sidelines for the Colonials, and it all kicks off at Eastern Kentucky. Next up, the Bryant Bulldogs. They'll host Patriot League member Holy Cross this Saturday. 3 things to watch in this one. First, every team in Week 1 is aiming at putting that first mark in the W column. Bryant, however, may have a bit of added emphasis on that point, being that the Bulldogs started the 2012 season 0 for their first 6. They had a great second half, rallying to win 4 of their last 5, but in 2013, they sure won't want to wait until October for their first victory. Well, they'll have a chance to do it right on day 1 in front of their home crowd against Holy Cross. Saturday's game will be Bryant's first game in the post-Jordan Brown era. Brown, a former All-NEC running back and the all-time conference leader in all-purpose yardage, has graduated, leaving a pretty big void in Bryant's backfield. Veterans Mike Perry and Ricardo McCray will try to fill the void, as will former Don Bosco prep star Paul Canaveri, who has transferred into Smithfield. And our final word on this matchup. The winner of Bryant Holy Cross will likely be the team that has improved most on the defensive side of the ball from last season. In 2012, both Bryant and Holy Cross gave up more than 400 yards of total offense per game to their opponents. Bryant allowed more than 31 points per contest. Head coach Marty Fine knows that number has to come down, and we'll see where his team is in that progression come Saturday in Smithfield. And now on to the Steel City, where the Duquesne Dukes will open the 2013 season against a familiar foe on Saturday, the Albany Great Danes. 3 things to watch in this one. Well, first, there should be no surprises on either sideline come Saturday. That's because these two opponents had become very familiar with one another over the last few years competing in the Northeast Conference. 2012, which was Albany's last year as an NEC member, saw the Great Danes top the Dukes by a 38-31 score. So Duquesne will be looking for some payback come Saturday. The second point to focus on is on the Duquesne defense. Preseason All-American linebacker Dorian Bell may be the most recognizable name on the unit, but he isn't the lone explosive playmaker. Sophomore defensive lineman Zach Zidian returns after a successful freshman campaign, while the Dukes have picked up a transfer in the form of Chris Johnson. The former Florida Gator played in all 13 games last year, including the Sugar Bowl. The final thing to keep an eye on when the Dukes kick off on Saturday will be on Duquesne's offense, particularly at the quarterback and running back positions. That's because the program's all-time leading rusher, Larry McCoy, along with All-NEC quarterback Sean Patterson, have both graduated, leaving big shoes to fill. It'll be Dylan Beekle who gets the snaps under center, and Ryan Ho who lines up at running back for the Dukes come Saturday. It's a new era of Duquesne football. Don't forget to check it out. It'll be the Sacred Heart Pioneers against Pioneer League member Marist come Saturday. 3 keys for this one. Number 1, Noel, or in this case, Noel, as in RJ Noel. He will be Sacred Heart's new starter under center come Saturday, having won a fierce competition that lasted for almost all of training camp. Moving on to our second point. Whereas RJ Noel will be a first-time starter, you won't find any of those in Sacred Heart's secondary. The unit, led by safety Gordon Hill, has impressed Mark Nofri over the past couple years and has continued to do it during training camp. Here's what the coach had to say about one of the strengths of his team.
The secondary has been one of our, I think this year, probably one of our most talented positions on the field. You're talking about Dennis Reagan, Stephon Thomas, Preston Sanford, Gordon Hill. They've all been on the field for us. They've been playing since their freshman year, and like I said, they're only going to be juniors, all 4 of them. They've had a little bit of a nucleus since their freshman year, and they've always had experience playing together.
Moving on to the offensive side of the ball for our final thing to watch in this Sacred Heart Marist matchup. Although the Pioneers have a new starting quarterback, there's some continuity at the skill positions for Sacred Heart. Noel will no doubt be helped out by the big bruising running back Kashada Spence, as well as proven pass catcher Robert Dim. The athletic Greg Moore, who lined up in the backfield at times last year, has been converted to a full-time receiver for the Pios, and you'll get to see him in action this Saturday against Marist. There are only 2 more games to tackle on this edition of NEC Football Digest. Next, we go down to Harrisonburg, Virginia, where the Central Connecticut Blue Devils will kick it off against the James Madison Dukes. 3 things to keep your mind on while watching this one. Number 1, the Blue Devils have been here before. Although the atmosphere can get rather rowdy down at JMU, it shouldn't faze the Blue Devils in the slightest. Central Connecticut played a Week 2 matchup at JMU back in 2011 and fared quite well. The Blue Devils were in it all the way down to the wire, falling 14-9. They did force 5 JMU turnovers that day, and that feeds in to point number 2. Fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. It's been Jeff McInerney's favorite word this offseason as the head coach hopes to get the Blue Devils back to their winning ways. He says they must tackle better and take care of the football.
Bruce, one of the things that we had lost our fundamentals, and obviously we lost our pursuit. We lost our basic fundamentals that it takes to win football games. Forget about scheme. You have to be able to tackle, and you have to be able to keep the ball inside and in front of you. And if you cannot do that, it does not matter what you run.
And one final thing to think about when you're watching the Central Connecticut-James Madison matchup. If the Blue Devils are to go down to JMU and pull off an upset over a top-tier program, they'll likely need some big plays along the way. Luckily, the Blue Devils have that guy capable of going the distance anytime he touches the football. Running back Rob Holloman was an All-American selection this preseason as an all-purpose runner. Holloman gained over 1,700 all-purpose yards in 2012 for the Blue Devils. We'll watch him and CCSU kick off a new campaign Saturday in Harrisonburg. And we close the season's first edition of NEC Football Digest talking about the preseason favorite Wagner Seahawks. They'll be at home on Grimes Hill this Saturday, welcoming Patriot League member Georgetown. 3 keys for this one. First, the Seahawks will be looking to make a statement against Georgetown come Saturday. They've lost to the Hoyas each of the past 2 seasons. Last year's 13-10 defeat was part of Wagner's 0-3 season start. The Seahawks, which won 9 straight after the sluggish start, will look to get after it out of the gate this season.
Biggest thing that I remember is that we lost both the games. So, we're pretty ticked off about that. So we're going to go out there and try to play real hard. Their D-line is real good. So as an offensive line, we have a big, shooter fill. So I think we're going to be okay, though.
You just heard from Wagner center David Fredrickson, and that leads us into point number 2, the battle in the trenches. It's a battle that Wagner will have to win on both Saturday and over the course of the season, because it's in the trenches where the Seahawks return most of their talent and experience. 4 of the 5 starters from last year's offensive line, David Fredrickson included, are back this year. Wagner returns just as much experience on the defensive front, where Devontae Barnett and Ymir Ortiz lead the way. The final thing to keep an eye on if you're at Wagner on Saturday will be the Seahawks' ability to manage the game. Specifically, we're talking about the ability of Matt Misley to step in under center and take over for Nick Dosher. Dosher, a first-team All-NEC selection last year and the second all-time leader in total offense in NEC history, has graduated. Misley is not Dosher, nor is anyone, but the Seahawks don't need him to be. They simply need a quarterback to take care of the ball and manage the football game. We'll see how Misley does in his first run come Saturday. So there's our summary for the week ahead. 2 of the games, the Bryant and Wagner games, will air live on NECFrontRow.com come Saturday. Well, we sure did have fun, and it's only week 1. We'll be back with you next week on NEC Football Digest.